Hello everyone and welcome back. This is Mindy Eggen, and today's video we are going to be creating a snowflake background. I'm also featuring the Says Stamp STAMPtember exclusive limited edition stamp set from Pink and Maine called Snow One Like You. I fell in love with this stamp set the minute I saw it because marshmallow snowmen, how seriously cute is that? So there are multiple images on here that you can use along with some coordinating sentiments. You can pick up the stamp set alone or the stamp set and coordinating dies over at SayStamp.com while supplies last. I chose the images from the stamp set that I wanted to work with, and I'm using some Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock to do my Copic coloring today and stamping the images in the Intense Black ink from Says Stamp. I am going to stamp this twice because it is a brand new stamp and I want to make sure I have some really definite lines. I used to struggle coloring snowmen, but now that I've kind of gotten used to it, I find they are some of the easiest things to color because you don't have to color in the whole thing. Since I want it to look like a white image, I just need to add some shading to give it that definition. So for all of my marshmallow snowmen, I'm using BG11 and BG10, just adding the color for the top two, I added color just to one side. And for these little guys holding hands, I added it to both sides so it has a highlight area in the middle. I'm going to use this blue-green color combination, the BG 49, 13, and 11, to do the scarf on one of my snowmen and the glove, and then also for the one at the top. So I'll have this kind of scattered throughout the card. I just really love these blue-green colors when I'm doing some winter or Christmas cards. If you wanted to add maybe some texture or interest to the scarf, you could take a white gel pen and just draw lines for some stripes or polka dots on the scarves. For the other two snowmen, I am using our 85, 83, and 81. So it's kind of a mauve-y type of pink. And same thing, you could add some polka dots or stripes, or even if you have maybe a glitter pen of sorts, you could add some sparkle and shine to the scarves. I do have the Copic color combinations I'm using listed at the top of the screen, and they'll also be listed over on my blog if you ever want to kind of tag that and save that for later. To do the top hat, I am going to be using T6, T4, and T2, just adding a little bit of shading on each side and blending that out. Really quick and simple. You could even drop it down to a 2-color combination if you wanted. Now, I was kind of thinking that the blue-green shading that I did on the snowmen were kind of combining a little bit too much with the scarf. So I brought in a BV20 and added that over the top, just real light. I don't want to go over it multiple times and turn my snowmen purple. But I did add it as just kind of really defining that shadow area. So for my background, I'm going to be using the 80-pound white cardstock again, cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'm starting with marine ink from Says Stamp, blending that in the circle, kind of working my way out towards the edge. Now I'm going to bring in Iris, which is more of a purple than it was a blue. And I'm going around all the outer edges, blending into that lighter color that's in the center. I want to keep that center part that light blue. I wanted to add a little bit more of a definition to this, so I'm going to bring in a little bit darker of a color, and this is Royal. So once again, going around all of those edges, and you can use any type of blending tool that you have. I happen to really like using these flat blending tools. After this is complete, I'm going to bring it over to my Make Art station, and I am going to be using a snowflake background stencil from Fawn. This is actually a 2-piece set, so it doesn't matter which one you start out with. I'm starting with this one here with all these great large snowflakes, holding it down with my magnets, and then I'm bringing in some white pigment ink from Says Stamp. I have a foam blending tool this time. I picked up the ink, tapped it off, and now I'm going over all of those open areas of the stencil. Just really light-handed because you don't want to risk the foam catching on the stencil and bending your stencil. You're going to see when I remove this that it creates these beautiful, delicate snowflakes in the background. So now I'm going to bring in the second part of the stencil, line that up, and just repeat those same steps. Sometimes you can actually take your foam blending tool and dab it like that, but you just want to be careful that you don't have too heavy of an amount of ink, because if you do, with it being a pigment, it could kind of spread underneath the stencil. So you just want to be real careful. And since this does stay wet a little longer, I'm going to speed up that process with my heat tool. After that is completely dry, I'm lining up where I want a sentiment to go and my snowman, but I noticed my paper was still kind of warped. So I just put a copy paper on top and ran it through my die cut machine to help flatten that out. And I'm bringing in the Says Stamp Transparency Grid Sheet to help me line up my sentiment straight. This sentiment comes from the Snowflake season stamp set. I had it last year. I didn't really get to use it. I really liked the font and the size of the sentiment, so that's why I chose this sentiment today, but the sentiments on the actual stamp set are great just as well. So right now I am sprinkling on my silver embossing powder, and I'm going to melt that with my heat tool, giving it a quick sweep on the back and then bringing it to the front and melting that. I went ahead and attached my background to a card base that is going to be an A2 size, so 4¼ by 5½, just using my dot runner to attach that. And all of my snowmen are going to have foam squares behind it. So I'm just going to remove the backing of those foam squares and arrange these around my sentiment on the front of the card. Super adorable set. I absolutely love these marshmallow snowmen. That completes my card project for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I will have all of the supplies linked down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. Thank you so much for joining me today.